United States military has a recruiting problem. Bigger bonuses, looser enlistment requirements, and increased incentives to draw new recruits are not working. According to a report in military.com, only two branches, the Marine Corps and Space Force, have met their 2023 active duty recruiting goals.
Per the same report, COVID-19 had a lingering impact on recruiting efforts, but experts also attribute barriers including ineligibility and decreased overall inclination to serve are keeping enlistment numbers low. Moreover, as Axios points out, patriotism among younger people has taken a nosedive. A recent Gallup poll shows 39% of people polled are, quote, extremely proud to be American, and only 18% of those are 18 to 34 years old, which is usually the target age for enlisted falling in that age group. Here to discuss the downtrend in recruitment are retired U.S. Navy Commander Kirk S. Lippold and retired U.S. Marine Corps Colonel Pete Metzger. Welcome to you both. Thanks for joining us on Rising.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm curious about these ineligible factors as well as this decline in patriotism. That's, of course, a serious issue. And I think sometimes we're really hard on the military for some of the methods that they take in terms of recruiting. But we also know that a lot of young people who would even want to join the military aren't able due to not meeting the physical or mental fitness standards. So we'll start with the Colonel. What do you make of the young people being generally ineligible to serve? And does the military have some kind of role to play in tackling that specific issue?
Well, I think the problems are numerous coming together where you say one of the biggest problems is having recruiters have access to the candidate pool of young men and women. And many schools and many school districts are restricting recruiters for reasons other than for political reasons, so they can't get to the young men and women to pass the idea. It's interesting to note that only 1% of this country serves in the armed forces. That's a shockingly low number. And I think that the messages that are trying to be put out by the military are clear, but I also think the counterforce to that is social media.
So we're thinking a lot about veterans today. I have noticed, many people have noticed, that a lot of services provided to veterans are coming increasingly from charities and nonprofits, and veterans aren't receiving the same benefits from the federal government that they used to enjoy. The VA's office just really isn't what it used to be, and I think taking care of our veterans who have served is incredibly important, especially when it comes to mental health care and healthcare in general. Do you all see this as a reason, perhaps, that recruitment numbers are down, that folks are looking at what this means for the very long term? I want to bring you in, Commander Lippold. Let's start with you.
I think that may be one factor, but I think overall, when you look at it, American people overall, over the past few years, have lost trust in their government institutions. Yet the most trusted institution still remains the United States military. And I think because it has the highest standard of ethics and integrity. Sure, like any large bureaucracy in some ways, there may be stumbles here and there, but overall, the Americans trust that the U.S. military are always going to be those white hat guardians of freedom. Those young men and women, those veterans that we are going to celebrate tomorrow, they chose to serve our nation. And many people want to find ways to give back to them. I mean, the Colonel and I are involved in this group, charitiesforvets.org. And part of that is because the American people, when they learn about the sacrifices these young men and women make, they actually want to give back. And giving that, by learning more about them, they also get access to them. And when young people have access and learn what the military is really about, what a career of service is, what being part of something bigger than yourself really means, then people tend to want to be more interested and have that propensity to join. So it's more of an upward spiraling circle. And I think that's what we're looking to try and help them do.
We saw an ad recently that looked a little bit different than maybe some that we've seen in the previous 6 months to a year. One that I thought reminded me of the military ads that I would see maybe 10 years ago that focused on that idea of self-sacrifice, of serving on behalf of something bigger to yourself and also having patriotism for your country. Do you think that that's a recognition from the military that perhaps that message was a little bit more enticing to young people than some of the more recent recruiting methods, which focused more perhaps on maybe diversity and equity and some of their drives to make the military more inclusive?
Yeah, in my opinion, the ads that appeal to a young woman or a young man are the ads that show it's tough to be a soldier, sailor, airman, or Marine. And it's tough, it's rewarding. And if you can measure up, we might take a look at you, which is very different than places where people dress up in funny costumes and that kind of stuff. We're appealing to the hardcore spirit of American patriots. And in my opinion, the more challenging the ads make it look, the more people they attract. But I'll defer to my colleague on that.
I would say that the colonel is exactly right. It's the challenge. Not everyone can join. Not everyone can become a Marine. Not everyone wants to serve as a sailor out on the high seas deployed around the world. I mean, join the Navy, see the world, and you really get to do those types of things. But in reality, years ago, when you competed with an economy, the military recruiters were focused on having these young kids that you could come into the military, learn a skill, and you would gain benefits for life. For example, VA home loans, etc. These days, it's becoming more about that contributing to a larger purpose, that actually working on behalf of your nation for the sake of your fellow citizens, and that it's not easy. It is going to be challenging. It's going to be hard. But by challenging and do that, you rise to become a better person. And I think that really appeals to a lot of young men and women because it breaks them out and differentiates them from everyone else they went to high school or college with. It makes them unique. And that's what a lot of people really strive to be these days.
There's a lot of coverage about how recruiting numbers are down, but serving isn't what it used to be. Of course, defense has changed quite a bit over the years with the, increasing technology we have when it comes to weapons. A lot of what the U.S. military is up to, if they're on the offensive somewhere, has to do with airstrikes and drones. Is the recruiting goal relevant to how we do defense still? Is the amount of personnel that they're recruiting for, especially when it comes to those who are fighting on the ground, are those numbers really required for us to do defense effectively as a nation? Let's start with you, Colonel Metzger.
Well, again, I think that you would be very pleasantly surprised at what young men and women can do when they come into the armed forces. They do things they never thought they could be doing, never thought they would be doing, or never thought they should be doing. They're smart, they're drug-free, they're physically fit. And when you see these young people get trained on advanced weapon systems like the commander had on his ship, it's absolutely astonishing what they can do. Not what they can't do, but what they can do. And we have a system whereby people 2 or 3 years younger than the entry-level soldier, sailor, airman, Marine are teaching them how to do these things, and it increases their confidence and increases the lethality of the U.S. Armed Forces.
And I would just add, leveraging off what the colonel said, is that these young men and women want to be taught some of the most advanced technical skills that are out there. Even today, whether you are an infantryman in the Army or whether you are running the advanced Aegis weapon system like I had on USS Cole, at the end of the day, they are learning valuable skills that they can apply in or out of the military. But it's the challenge of learning those technical skills, how they can apply them. But more importantly, they also learn how those skills work to defend our nation, how to keep us free, how they will be out there at the tip of the spear defending U.S. national security interests so that their families back home can be safe, can enjoy the freedoms that are enshrined in the Constitution. And when they understand that larger picture, that's really why they want to serve, because now they know they are directly contributing to the defense of our country and their fellow citizens.
Commander Lippold and Colonel Metzger, thank you so much for joining us, and happy Veterans Day to you both. We appreciate your service very much.
Thank you very much, and happy Marine Corps birthday to my fellow colonel there.